All right. Additional thoughts for B by Common. I'm a little late doing it on a Thursday morning of all times. My schedule's been kind of weird this week. And also, too, last night I could have done it, but it would have been rushed. And a couple weeks ago, I did additional thoughts for Barter 6 and A Great Chaos by Ken Carson. And I kind of didn't like how those turned out. Both those albums were kind of similar in terms of, the sound and stuff. And so doing both additional thoughts in the same night back to back, I feel like I washed out both of them. They were just kind of generic videos. So I told myself, if you're going to do this, do it right. Take the time. Do it right. Have something to say rather than, I just have to post because it's Wednesday, And then last night, my son's been sick and my wife was doing some stuff. It's like, I'm just going to do it in the morning. And it was kind of nice because I hadn't gone through the comments yet. So I went through the comments this morning and I was reading some stuff and listening to the album more. And I got a lot of listens in on B. And God, it's just delightful. It really is. I mean, and maybe that word sounds a little silly, but that's the experience I've had with it. Every time I put it on, God, it sounds so good. It's so enjoyable. It's pleasant. I like it. The reaction you guys saw me, it was fun to kind of get into some little bit of philosophical things and some emotional things. And one of the notes I have here is how I love that Common, he allows himself to struggle in the open on this album, which is good. I mean, that's nice. I think when you hear artists struggle out in the open, it gives us, everyone else, the listener, not necessarily permission, but kind of like, it's okay. It's okay. You're going through this. I'm going through the same thing. Look at me. I'm this big known name and I'm making all the money and I'm going on the tour. I'm going through the same thing. And it's sometimes I feel like, with people, especially if you're trying to deal with stuff and you're alone in dealing with it, there is some comfort in knowing at least, maybe if I'm, alone and trying to work through this, I'm not alone in the only one feeling these things. So it was neat. I really, really fucking enjoyed it. They say do 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 do, just super catchy. Go is fantastic. I love kind of how elegant and soft the production is on that one because it kind of makes me think of a lady and smooth, soft, warm. B is such an incredible opener. Beautiful opener. Oh, God. Every time the album kicks off, here we go. Just love it. What do I have for notes? I did take some notes, reading some comments, people talking about how, this is for them a great example of quality over quantity. And I totally agree. This is something that it seems like it was a little bit more common in the 90s than it is now, where they would just, we got to fill up the CD. There's got to be 80 minutes of music. And it was just like, you guys, you don't need to have all these filler songs in here just to fill up the CD to justify the purchase for the person buying it. There is something to be said about a good, concise album. And this is such a great example of that. There was another word, cozy. Cozy was a comment that was left, how this album feels cozy. And my wife and I were talking about it this morning a little bit. I was listening to it again, and she said how it feels like a wintry album. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because I feel it to be like warm, She's like, no, it's like it's cold outside, but you're inside and you've got your tea and you've got your sweater and the fire's on. I was like, oh, yeah. Definitely. And there were some people who left comments talking about how being in the Chicago area when this album released and just the memories that come back with it, and even it's almost like a feeling through the sound. The production does that, and the production has been great for me because I've gone cold on Kanye. We all know about everything that he's done, but the thing that set me off on Kanye to begin with, before all the bad stuff happened, was the Miami Rolling Loud concert that he was going to perform at. And then a couple weeks before the show, he said, I'm out. I'm not going. Which, whatever. Things come up. Things happen. Whatever. He's not going to go. Okay, at least he's giving like a heads up, a notice to people. And then, of course, the venue wouldn't refund the tickets. Well, whatever. And then what happens? I don't even know how this shit started. But basically, they get Kid Cudi to take his spot. Well, then Kanye and Kid Cudi, who I used to be friends, start beefing with each other. Whatever, right? Whatever. But then that night, he shows up to the venue, the place he said he wasn't going to perform, shows up to the venue at the time he was supposed to perform on a different stage than Kid Cudi, than the one he was supposed to be on, just to like spite Kid Cudi. But to me, that was the biggest middle finger you can give to any paying fan. And as soon as all that went down, I was like, well, I will never, ever buy a ticket to a Kanye show, ever. Because that was a perfect example of having absolutely no respect for your own pain supporting fans. And then all the other shit happened, right? So it's been tough with me with Kanye because I love his music. He makes great music. But I also kind of feel like he's a lunatic. I mean, there you go. I don't really know how else to say it. I feel like he's a lunatic. He's completely out of control. And for me, as someone who has so often just kind of had music be music and then the artist be the artist, and I don't really worry about that, this whole journey and learning about him, and I have not been able to separate the two. So that's why I haven't listened to Jesus is King, Donda. I currently have no plan on listening to anything new because I don't have an open mind when it comes to Kanye, because I don't have any respect for him, because he just said F you to every single paying fan just to spite with a friend. And then did a bunch of crazy shit after that. Anyway, crazy little divergence there. I guess really what I'm trying to say is trying to express that personal opinion in contrast with, it was nice to hear his production. I kind of went through my own little mini story arc of, I miss the old Kanye, that'd be so Kanye. But this album came out the same year as Late Registration. Late Registration's fantastic, in my opinion, and it's been a little fun for me, kind of coming off the 50 Cent ride and being a little fatigued from gangster rap, and then hearing this, and it's new and refreshing, and I listened to College Dropout between that, and then thinking about Late Registration again, and it's just fun little mini arc, mini snapshot of what it was, back in the early mid-2000s and how hip-hop was changing. And then too, with Kanye, that verse off of They Say, it's sad. It's sad to listen to him saying those things. And here it is almost 20 years later and where he is now. And, they say it feels like a plane crash. And I think I said during the reaction, it looks like a plane crash too, because goddamn, I don't know how else you explain it. Kind of a departure there from the album itself, but really just sharing the experience that I've had this week in listening to this album, revisiting Kanye production. And then too, it, in a strange way, it all ties into the concept of the album itself, right? Be. And it's easy for us, as individuals to look from the outside at these other artists and judge them for what they're doing. And not that we can't have opinions on it, but I think sometimes some artists, they go so far, it's hard to remember that we don't know everything they're going through. At best, we probably know like 10% of what they're going through. So it's been good for me to hear Kanye again and kind of crack the ice on my heart around him and listening to him, and kind of be forced to remind myself, I don't know the guy. I don't know anything about what he's going through, what he's dealing with, what he's thinking about, and yes, I'm allowed to have my opinion, and yes, his actions do detract from my ability to enjoy his music, and that's a fact, and that's okay. But at the same time, I shouldn't judge too harshly, I suppose. But then I just go, yeah, but the guy literally went on fucking Alex Jones and talked about how much he loves Hitler. Like, it's just fun. It's just hard. This is a very, very difficult one for me, especially as a person trying to stay open-minded. Goddamn. I mean, there's a couple things that make me just go, nope. And that is certainly one of them. If you go on Alex Jones's show and make him uncomfortable because of the shit you're saying, you're a little beyond the line, in my opinion. Let's see. Do I have anything else that's actually related to the album? I've really... The irony of, oh, I wanted to wait, so I got to make a good video talking about the album, and now I'm not even talking about the album, right? I guess that's kind of it. A lot of people said water, what was it, water for chocolate, or water in exchange for chocolate, or something like that. Definitely going to check out more Common. That's definitely going to happen. Really enjoyed this album. Some people have mentioned other albums. I don't remember them right now, but I have added them to my list. Like every week when I get one album scraped off the list, I add 2 more. So going to get to the end of that list any day now. Any day now. But just terrific. Terrific album. I can see why so many people recommended it for so long. I can see why it's so revered. There was one comment too. I don't think I replied to it on YouTube, but a person said this album is strange because it's so often talked about, yet it still feels underrated. And that's hard to like describe, but I feel that. I feel that. Like, this album's been mentioned to me so many times. You gotta listen to it. You're gonna love it. Great production, all these things. And they're absolutely right. And yet I feel like for all the times it's been mentioned, I feel like it still hasn't gotten enough praise, because when people talk about the hip hop great albums of all time, we all hear the same names. It doesn't really feel like this one gets tossed in there. And I kind of think it should. Now, I do want to say one more thing about Common. I mentioned this during the reaction a couple times, specifically his rapping. Love his lyrics, love the theme of the album, love what he's talking about. But in terms of rapping on this album, okay. But that doesn't matter. It's not like every single rapper has to go out there and just fucking shoot molten hot fire every single song, every single bar. This is kind of a good example of where some people said in the comments that the production carried this album. And I think if you really focus on the rapping specifically, not lyrics, not concept, not subject matter, but just the mechanic of rapping and rhymes. Okay, but I also think that's an unfair statement. I think, yes, the production's great. Yeah, maybe Common could have did a little bit better in just specifically the rapping category, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be that way. Like, I feel like this album, if he was trying to put more heat in his flow, if he was trying to go faster, if he was trying to make more complex rhyming schemes, I don't know if it would make the album better. The whole idea of B. It's kind of neat. He's just kind of there expressing these things and these ideas and tossing them out there and going back and forth on them. And I don't know. It's strange. Like, on one hand, I totally agree with the idea of, being proficient, being excellent in your craft and honing those things and always striving to, present the best version of that. But at the same time, it is always necessary. Like, I always think of the drumming comparison. I've probably talked about this before, where the argument over who's the best drummer, and people say whoever is, diddle diddle going crazy, but diddle 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 doesn't always serve the song. If the song is chill, you don't go crazy on the drums. You chill out. You kind of support the song. And I kind of feel like that's happening here. It would be interesting to hear more Common and see what he does if he's more in the rapping lane, like focusing on that aspect. But yeah, there you go. All that to say, I don't really think I said anything at all. Maybe I did. It's funny, I sit down and I do all these things and I forget exactly what I said 5 minutes ago. Okay, well, today is November 9th. Today is the 30th anniversary of Midnight Marauders by A Tribe Called Quest. I'm going to record it here in about an hour or so, and that shit's going up on Friday, tomorrow. So there you go. It's November, but I suppose there's your secret hint, your hint as to what's coming tomorrow. Okay? All right, y'all. Take care. We'll see you.